Hey everybody, Qroo here. Welcome to the channel. I didn't have time to make one of those animated videos for you. Sorry about that. But I did not want you to miss out on a Spanish lesson. So, what I'm going to be talking about today is ways to boost your Spanish vocabulary, and I want to share some of my own experiences. When I was trying to learn Spanish vocabulary, I did what a lot of people do, and I made word lists for myself. Let's say I started out with I'm going to learn 10 words a day. And by Friday of that week, that was already way too many words. So I kind of reduced it to say 5 a day. But again, by the end of the week, that's still a lot of words. And what I found is not that I was learning a lot of Spanish, but I was getting good at remembering the lists. For example, let's say my word list said deber, meaning to, ought to, and the next one was hablar. As I'm going through this list, and I couldn't remember to speak, was hablar. As soon as I saw the word deber, I knew hablar right away. Shot in my head, bam. That's the next one on the list. I just got good at lists, which is okay because I guess I'm learning somehow, but I wasn't able to use all of these words in my Spanish. It didn't feel natural working them into my Spanish. So the way I got around that is I started to focus on more useful words, as in common words, and phrases, and then kind of working with those and making sample sentences. Like I'd spend, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes with a particular phrase, working out different sentences. And then later I found when I was actually speaking Spanish, I was more apt to start to plug in that phrase because it felt more natural. I'd already worked through it in my head. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Our phrase is one that I like and I use a lot, en cuanto a, which means regarding or in regards to. This is a great phrase to, let's say you're having a conversation with somebody and you want to change the subject, or you write an email to someone and you want to begin it with, hey, in regards to your question, in regards to your letter. Now, if you look up regarding to or in regards to in a Spanish-English dictionary, you're going to get a lot of other variations, not just en cuanto a. You're going to get other things, but to be honest with you, you don't need all those things. And if I gave you a word list and I said, hey, here's 5 ways to say regarding to, you'd see them and go, oh, those are probably pretty useful. And then later, nothing stuck. It was a waste of time. So that's not what we're going to be doing in this lesson. Now, I want you to remember this as a set phrase. Always those 3 words, en cuanto a. All right, so let's start to make some sentences using en cuanto a, like to begin our sentence. En cuanto a nuestra conversación, in reference to our conversation. Let's say I want to add yesterday's conversation. En cuanto a nuestra conversación de ayer, from yesterday. Now, at that point, I could talk about whatever. I'm like, hey, in reference to our conversation yesterday, and the person will be like, yeah, I agree. Estoy de acuerdo. I agree. Or no estoy de acuerdo. I don't agree. Or I can talk about whatever. But it's a great way to segue into the conversation. What if I want to say, hey, regarding your question, I would say it, en cuanto a tu pregunta. En cuanto a tu pregunta, whatever I want to say. Now that is the tu form or informal. Let's say I want to be formal, use the usted. I would use su instead of tu. I would say, en cuanto a su pregunta. Let's say I want to say, in reference to the news about something. En cuanto a la noticia sobre, in reference to the news about, let's say there was a power outage. En cuanto a la noticia sobre el apagón, blah, blah, blah. In reference to the news about the power outage. In reference to the news, and you can make up fun things to say. It could be like the disappearance of the princess. Whatever works in your particular vocabulary. En cuanto a la desaparición de la princesa. It sounds a lot better in Spanish, doesn't it? I think it does. How about in reference to our trip? En cuanto a nuestro viaje. In reference to your trip. En cuanto a tu viaje. In reference to your letter. En cuanto a tu carta, or more polite, en cuanto a su carta. And I'm really slowing it down for you. Obviously in a conversation, you're going to speak a little bit more quickly. En cuanto a tu carta. Let's say I want to start an email and I want to say, in reference to your email. En cuanto a tu email. You're like, that sounded exactly like English, Paul. Yeah, people say email in Spanish. You could say correo electrónico, but nobody says that. People are like, en cuanto a tu email. So why not just keep it that way? You don't even have to write that one down. I bet you're going to remember it anyway. So I think you're getting the hang of that. You just plug in different nouns. You can go all day and practice that. In fact, you could stop this video right now and you've got what you need for the day. But for you folks who want a little more, why don't we give you a little more? Do you remember when I taught you that little helpful phrase, lo que, which means that which? If you don't and you didn't watch that video, you should really watch it. We say lo que all the time in Spanish. We're going to use it with en cuanto a. So we're going to say en cuanto a lo que and then something. After lo que, we're going to be looking for a verb, but we're going to need to conjugate it and we're going to put it in the simple past or the preterite. An example would be en cuanto a lo que dijiste ayer. In reference to what you said yesterday. You know, you don't ever want to hear that when you're talking to somebody. I hate when my wife says that. When all of a sudden she's like, hey, it's like, by the way, or regarding what you said yesterday. Oh, it always ends badly. Anyway, now if we want to be a little bit more specific, en cuanto a lo que me dijiste ayer. In reference to what you told me or said to me yesterday. En cuanto a lo que me dijiste ayer. And that's from the verb decir, which means to say. En cuanto a lo que me dijiste ayer. In reference to what you said to me yesterday. And you can fill in whatever you want. No estoy de acuerdo. I don't agree. Or you could be like, ¿sabes qué? You know what? Deja de decir tonterías. Stop saying stupid things. How about, hey, regarding what you did yesterday? What you did. What is to make or to do? Hacer. We're going to be using it in the simple past. Hiciste, right? So, en cuanto a lo que, you know it's going to be that. En cuanto a lo que hiciste ayer. In reference to that which you did yesterday is what it literally says, but more casually in English, hey, regarding what you did yesterday. En cuanto a lo que hiciste ayer. You know, another common thing people say is, hey, you know, about what happened last night or regarding what happened. This is the lo que thing is good for that too. En cuanto a lo que pasó, right? You can use pasar, like to pass in the past tense. Pasó ayer. En cuanto a lo que pasó la semana pasada. In reference to what happened last week or el mes pasado. Last month. You see, you can just pop in things. It's like building blocks. You're making a sentence. But you already notice if you're practicing these with me that the first part of the sentence is coming much faster because it's the same all the time. You didn't have to put the words together. That's why learning vocabulary this way and taking the time to do a short drills like this will really boost your Spanish. Okay, so before I go, one of the most important things with this is to always use all three words en cuanto a. En cuanto a. Because if you drop the a, en cuanto means something else. It means as soon as. Like, en cuanto tengas la información, avísame. As soon as you have the information, advise me. Now that can be a useful phrase for you folks that are good with the subjunctive because you're going to be using the subjunctive mood with that. It's not what this video is about. I may do another video. If that's something you want to see, based on that kind of usage with the subjunctive, let me know in the comments section. But for today, stick to en cuanto a. As usual, I recommend that you practice Spanish with anyone patient enough to actually listen to you. And today, you keep saying en cuanto a and something. En cuanto a tu pregunta, in reference to your question, or something like en cuanto a lo que pasó ayer, in reference to what happened yesterday. All right, until next time, hasta luego.